What the Hex, your source for Warhammer Underworlds, and under 30 new, or perhaps returning, warbands wandering through the Spitewood. Today, I am your host, Phil, and joining me, my longtime co-host, Davey. How you doing, Davey?
I'm good. I am excited as a player and terrified as a content creator for this reveal.
Yeah. We've done only one of these before, and it was technically slightly worse because we had another single warband drop alongside it. But
and I think there was. This box set's only got two decks in it.
Decks, yeah. So it still balances out to being a little less this time, but not by much. For folks who couldn't already guess, we are doing some speculation about the big news that dropped from the big summer preview. We know about a whole bunch of new releases, and we figured we'd just run them down for folks who maybe didn't watch the preview or read the article, and give you some of our thoughts, some takes.
I was trying to come up with like portmanteaus for this style episode, like speculasode, but it was coming too close to speculum, which so backed
a little
off
different. For some context for folks, we are recording this on July 26th. Getting this one in a little early because our friend here, Davey, is going to be heading on over to European realms and getting some R&R.
Yep. And I've told the family that we're going to try and pack light. And immediately after saying that, I'm like, I wonder if I could like get one box of Underworlds in, and then Emma and I can play while we're bopping around. So I'll keep that option open. Just a couple warbands, maybe, so we can get a few reps before Nova, because we're going to come back pretty close to that, and it'd be nice to not be completely rusty, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, pressure's off. You got your tickets, so don't need to worry about it.
All you have to do is go play a bunch of board games and then a little bit of Underworlds.
Yeah, sounds like a pretty good weekend.
Yeah, it'll be good.
All right. Well, as usual, we got some community things to shout out before we get on to the actual topic here. So the Tacoma Open just finished up not too long ago, and wanted to shout that out specifically because I thought that the win coming from Mollog was interesting, but then also Mollog won with a Realmstone Raiders Reckless Fury deck.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So for us here on What the Hex, who are poo-pooing on Realmstone Raiders, I guess you just hand it to a troll and suddenly things happen.
I had tinkered with the idea of trying to put that together. It was one of those that I had not yet assembled, but I know I was like, in theory, like that has a good chance to work. But even cooler that somebody just went and did it. Andy, I think, right? Hammer Sauce.
Yeah, it was Andy Hammer Sauce. So shout out there. Pretty cool. If you want to check out the decks from that tournament, they have all been posted in the various places that people track tournament decks these days. We could probably find some links for folks to put in the show notes. Yeah.
And he got to play against Fish in the finals, I think. And that's
correct.
He was running Emberwatch. And I know Rack and Ruin was in there, and I'm forgetting. I think it was Rack and Blazing.
Either Rack Blazing or Rack Kata, I think. One of those two.
I do love me some Rack Kata.
It's a pretty spicy deck.
Yeah.
But either way, doing it with the Emberwatch, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking at our correspondence here. It was definitely Blazing Rack was what he was working on, which
that makes sense. Blazing Rack's got some cool stuff.
That's some exciting positioning tricks too. So
yep, very cool. So that was Tacoma Open, at least the very, very brief highlight for the top spots and the Realmstone Raiders. Anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, I just wanted to say the folks over on the Staggerers blog have done a pretty great bit of coverage about their WTC experience. A super cool event. It would be awesome to be able to participate at some point, but there's great coverage there. We were just talking before the episode started about how people remember their games. I do not have that skill, I guess. So
at least not in that detail.
No, but yeah, so that's cool. I thought there was there's some good coverage there, so definitely worth
Absolutely.
checking out.
And just like such a cool concept too, right? Being able to do
Yeah,
country specific teams to go and
yeah,
play and have like sort of claim to being the quote unquote best country of Underworlds players.
yeah,
Which shout out to the Italians for
yeah,
holding
man.
it down in Worlds and then Teams Championship. I guess it's pretty hard to say that Italy doesn't currently hold the top spot for Underworlds
Yeah,
countries.
pretty impressive. It was cool to. Think I was telling. I think probably mentioned last episode. It was cool to see a picture of that winning team. Be like, oh, I know those guys. You know, having gotten
Yeah,
to chat with them and watch them play at Worlds was pretty great. So
yeah, absolutely. I know there's a number of other things that have come out recently, but I have not stayed in the
mm,
loop. So for folks who don't know, you can always hop on the different Discords, find everybody's content there. Otherwise, you can wait for Fish's monthly roundup.
yeah,
He'll usually provide a nice, succinct article that gives you some links to a whole bunch of different content.
hmm
But I believe we can then journey on to the Spitewood.
yeah.
Uh,
Sounds good.
Pretty surprising. I will just say when this preview was sort of announced by GW to say, hey, we're doing a big summer preview. Here's going to be a bunch of stuff for all the systems. And they sort of have all the tags, like which systems are going to be covered. And they said Underworlds. I was like, I'm
hmm
not sure what they're going to be talking about because like it's the middle of summer. We just got like 2 releases. They aren't even out yet.
Yeah,
Like what could they possibly be talking about? Lo and
yeah.
behold, we're getting a whole expansion and gonna be drowning in, I believe it is 18 new warbands
Oh, yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
A few of them are re-releases, but like
Sure.
18 warbands, 2 new decks, a new board, which is
Yeah.
cool.
Very
Um,
welcome.
very, very welcome, I think. And so there's a lot to digest here. So as I said before, sort of the purpose of this episode is that we can kind of just spitball some ideas of like what do we think of this stuff, but also to just give a recap because like there's a lot in here. So
Yeah. I was, I forget that not everyone is always as perpetually plugged into everything that is coming out of GW. To include, just went to our. We're currently in between leagues, but went to the Thursday night thing, and I started talking about the new stuff coming up, and Emmett looked at me blankly, and I was like, "Oh, you don't know? Uh, hey, let me show you all the new warbands coming out." So
yeah,
that was exciting.
yeah,
I thought for sure because I think let's see for Ember Guard we've had I think just 7 warbands, including the 2 in the box. If I'm not mistaken, there's been 3 orders.
uh,
So Ember Watch, Jaws, Knives of the Crone, Destruction's just had Borgits. Death
yep.
hasn't had anything.
No new
Uh,
death anyway. Yeah,
Chaos has had Zicket, the Gardeners, and of course Commandora's Blades. So I
yep,
think that comes to 7, like brand new, not part of the Grand Alliance
correct.
release.
Yeah,
Um, so in years past, a season would consist of 8 war bands, or at least during the there was a stretch there where it was like 4 war bands during the Ulgu era, possibly
yeah.
during Beastgrave as well. Oh man, it is hard to keep track.
No,
I
Beastgrave
can't.
and Dire Chasm both had 8, and
Oh
then
no,
there's
sorry,
the
I'm thinking after that the return to Gur. Yeah,
Wintermaw
yeah,
or Gnarlwood.
yeah. Those were forward and go, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Like sort of
Anyway,
1 a quarter.
but 7 would be a weird number to have in a season. I'm not saying they won't, but that led me to be very confident that we're just going to find out what the next warband was, and then they're like,
Yep.
actually, there's way more than that. Like, oh my
Yeah.
god!
Whoa.
So yeah,
Yeah.
but let's get into it. Hey,
Yeah. So we'll start with the Spite Wood box itself because I
Mhm,
figure there's sort of a bit more than just warbands to break down here. So
mhm,
we do have 2 warbands.
mhm.
1 order and 1 chaos. So death sucks to suck. As you guys continue to just be ignored. But these are some pretty wild new releases. We're getting Kurnoth warband again.
Mm-hmm.
Previously, the last time we saw Kurnoth was with Skaith's Hunt back in Beastgrave, which for folks who weren't playing back then, it was like some fawn elves, essentially.
Yeah.
They're like deer-legged elves, and
Yeah.
then their cat beast friend, and one of these centaurs that's like a deer centaur.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're getting Kurnoth's heralds, which are 3 of the deer centaurs. So very elite. In the article, they are described as being strike. So the expectation is that they're aggro, but they're described as having bonuses for being in their own territory. So they're aggro that wants to stay in their own territory. And one of the things they call out in the article is that they can't be flanked while they're in their own territory.
Yeah, I don't. If you'd given me a few guesses, I don't know that I would have jumped to the assumption that they would want to hang out in their own territory, because you just were like, well, these are speedy guys. I'm sure they're going to be blitzing in.
Yeah.
But if well done, it sounds kind of cool. Like you could reposition laterally. I don't know. I like the idea of high movement, but not a whole bunch of stuff just forcing you into enemy territory, which we've seen a lot of in this edition. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. From zooming way in on the image that they provide of sort of the whole setup of the box, you can kind of make out some of the bigger stats on these guys. You can see that they have 4 move. You can see they all have 5 health. 2 of them have only melee attacks for 2 hammers, 2 damage. And then 1 is the ranged fighter, who is obviously for 1 damage, because ranged attacks are all 1 damage this go round. I think overall that is a pretty nice elite spread. We saw 3x5 for the Stormcast in the Emberguard box, and that worked out pretty well. Yeah, the only other thing that we sort of got a teaser of was like they said, and I quote, powerful once per game abilities for this warband. What that means, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But so they have a number of once per game abilities. So
3 of them, it would appear. So.
Yeah. So whatever those end up being, apparently they're powerful.
Yeah. I am interested to see. Well, this is one of the war bands, Kurnothi, like the bigger Age of Sigmar community, are probably wondering if they're getting a bigger release with these folks. I think we all thought that when Skaith came out, and then crickets. But again, and it feels like they've been getting some mentions in the background, Kurnothi. But the other that have been getting mentioned are these Hellsmiths of Hashut, is what the other AOS big reveal was. And they are like chaos aligned Dwarden, or dwarves if you're not into the whole AOS nomenclature sort of thing.
The rebranding.
So that is a faction that GW fans have been waiting for a very long time to return. To show up in AOS. They've been hinted at a whole bunch, less and less subtly, it is exciting to see. They also returned with big old hats, at least a couple of them. So
a lot of the leaders, it looks like. Yeah,
it kind of split the difference between, there was at the end of Warhammer Fantasies run, there was like a Forge World was releasing some, and they were cool looking. They had ditched the hats, but now they're somewhere in between.
Yep.
They look gnarly. The background, I know that this faction has been like supplying armor and weapons to chaos factions for quite a while. So they're suitably ensconced in metal for this. But they're described as being mastery as an archetype with 5 fighters, and you've enhanced this image enough to realize that they are all speed 3, correct?
That is correct. So no longer are the dwarves stuck at speed 2. Nay, nay.
They probably just have some, extra motors hidden underneath those chainmail cloaks there, so that you can,
Probably.
yeah, yeah. That man, Speed 2 is such a heartbreaker. That's kind of cool to
Seriously.
see that bump up, but um, they have said that they love, quote, love nothing more than delving treasure. Um,
Yeah.
and they will, if they do that, they'll gain Demon Forge dice, and that will be added to attack or defense. So um, that, unfortunately, if that reads exactly true, there is sometimes a history of these Warhammer community articles being slightly wrong about something. So there's some part of my brain hoping like maybe it's just hold treasure. Like that might be, maybe
Yeah.
somebody was writing it wasn't totally familiar with the game and wrote delve when they meant. Anyway, it'd be a bummer if it's yet another warband that's like, yeah, pillage and plunder. That sounds good, So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I looking at these mechanics, it's kind of like, well, wait, is it like really meaning that like if they delve, they get this one use reroll that they can just use whenever they want? Because man, that'd be strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe a plus dice. If it's plus dice, it's even more ridiculous. But
Yeah. It does say that they pair well with take and hold decks, so
it does.
we'll see.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited for dwarves regardless because we haven't seen any dwarves in just the universe really for much at all in this game, and then not since Thundrix came out really.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been years since we had a new dwarf warband. So
yeah, that's true.
Probably not exactly what everyone was hoping for. That was like a super big Fire Slayers dwarf fan, but Chaos Dwarves are going to be popular, I'm sure. So
yeah,
should be interesting.
Yeah, I think so. Let's as I just scroll down through the article itself, let's talk about what we know about the what's the rest of the stuff in the box here.
Yeah. So I guess first off, like we mentioned, we're getting a new board, which looks beautiful to me anyway.
Yeah.
It's very like Gyranian, just foresty thing, and it's got a very different layout than what we've been seeing. There's one stagger hex right in the middle of the board, and then we have these new printed tokens. These are Waystone hexes. They sort of get a green border. And when you're standing on a Waystone hex, you can re-roll a dice. So either a defense dice or an attack dice. So it gives you these points on the board that aren't treasure. They aren't features in the same sense as like a token, but you still would probably want to stand on them if you can, because you'll benefit from doing so.
Sure.
It looks like there's 4 of them, at least on the side of the board that we've seen. So everybody's going to have 2 in their territory, regardless of how the board is oriented. So it's at least a little bit balanced in that sense.
Yeah. I get the impression from the part of the board that the other side of the board that we can just see part of, it looks like there's probably more than one stagger hex, and there may be only 2 of these Waystone things. I think there's I'm looking at this one that has 1 stagger and 4 Waystone, and I guess that's only 1 more printed hex than the board we have that has 2 blocked and 1.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, but I was thinking to myself, like, I wonder how tricky that's going to make feature token placement. I can't imagine you're going to be able to place a treasure over the top of Waystone, but it's possible. Like if you, it could be a thing. Like, hey, I'm going to deny this Waystone by putting treasure. I don't know. I think that's unlikely, but not impossible.
Yeah. I would kind of hope so anyway. But it wouldn't be shocking, especially if we do end up getting some sort of cards that can move treasure tokens again, which personally I loved. I thought that was always fun, but I don't know. We'll see. Other things with the boards, the side that we can see has a very sort of different distribution of hexes. I feel like from what we currently have, there's a lot of adjacent starting hexes,
Including
and
including the possibility where opposing fighters will start adjacent to each other.
yeah, for the first time ever in the
If you
game.
if you align it on the fives, then and you if your opponent is, I mean, gosh, yeah, I'm thinking about that. You could if they're a 7-fighter warband, you know that it's going to be filled. You could have somebody just start swinging at range 1 immediately.
Yeah. I mean, not to jump ahead or anything, but knowing that Snark exists and knowing they're getting a rules change, I hope that his spin-in rule is changing, because I think technically steading up a fighter is placing them on the board.
Yeah.
So if they put Snark down first so that he's just right there, then that means that if you place in that spot, you take a damage before the game even starts.
Boo.
Yeah, do not like that. We'll see. We will have to see what comes from that. But like I said, don't want to get too far ahead there.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about it. It is wild. That is a very different sort of thing. Like I said, this is the first time in the entire game's history, I believe, that you can force 2 starting hexes to actually be adjacent on different sides of the board right at the beginning of the game. There's a number of different warbands that get to push like right as the game begins. They could end up adjacent, but they didn't start there. So, should be interesting. I actually think I like the board distribution pretty well. It looks pretty balanced. And if people really are going to care about these waystones, I think they're not very far forward. So like, you're not just going to be able to camp on one and take pot shots at everybody forever.
Yeah.
Thing that we learned about is that there is going to be one additional type of hex that we place onto the board, similar to the old either lethal hexes or cover hexes that we placed. And these are Aqua Giranas. So this is, I mean, for people who care about the lore, this is literally just the water of Gyran, which is like healing water.
Yeah.
And that's basically what it does. You get to heal a fighter at the end of the round if you're holding one of these, but you also get a glory point at the end of a round if you're holding one of these.
Okay.
Each player places 1. So there will be 2 on the board, 1 in each territory. And I believe you only get the glory point if you are holding the one in enemy territory.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I think it said something to that effect in here, but I'm not seeing it now. So I might be wrong. I might be remembering that incorrectly, but I think there was something to that effect. And I'm hoping that I'm remembering that correctly, because it would kind of be awful to be able to tuck one of these away in your territory and just sit there and get 3 free glory.
Yeah.
3 free heals is already bad enough.
Wait, we think there's 3? Is there... Oh, I see. Over the course of the game, I got you.
Yeah. So if you hold it on at the end of each round, theoretically, you can get 3 additional glory. There's 2 tokens. There's.
I mean that feels again like something that, well, I mean, benefits gets who can stay over onto them. They don't need the heal so much.
No,
it's in having that be the 2 things that happen is the heal, which is more beneficial for big guys, and the stand there to get glory, which is more beneficial for hordes, feels like an intentional choice, to try and provide both ends of the spectrum some sort of bonus. But it'll be fun to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see what the placement rules end up being for those tokens and how that all ends up shaking out, because if you can kind of place them wherever you want, you can probably do some really weird stuff with sticking them places that would normally be difficult to access, but because you don't really have anything that would be precluding that. I mean, it's just unless there's something in the rule book that sort of explains how these things are placed, you can probably just make sure that when you have access to them, it's as advantageous as possible, which would be kind of neat, I guess. But I don't know. I guess overall, do you feel like this is beneficial for the game? Is this just added complexity?
Um, I am ambivalent on it. I think if I think back to when we had placed lethals and we had placed cover, I remember thinking that I was enjoying it at the time, but I remember being so relieved when placed lethals were finally out of the game. It was such like a dangerous time to be playing Underworlds because everyone was just so close to dying all the time or whatever. It's kind of the opposite of that. I don't. This feels like one where I'd have to see the rest of it to say whether I think there's this tendency, like, hey, we're releasing a new season, we need to add something new, right?
Yeah.
We've seen that there's a slow march of here's a new rule here, like here's now we place lethals, okay, now we place covers and you can delve. Was when we got to Ulgu, that was like a new rule that now exists in the game. Now there are staggers, all these sort of things slowly adding, and I get the idea of like, hey, let's make something new and exciting, but it can be something that gets added that maybe didn't really need to, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so
And I think that's my worry, is that it ultimately will be just sort of like, it's here, it's extra rules to keep track of, but ultimately it doesn't have a huge impact and the game just didn't need it. And like, with the new edition, we saw them take out a number of different rules because it was like, yeah, we don't really need knockback. We don't really need, some of these additional abilities, like being able to, whatever it was called, where you could like stagger people instead of attacking. And it was just like, I see what you're saying too, where it's like, yeah, we're just adding new things because it's like, hey, it's a new edition, it needs new rules, but it's like the rule set's tight. Like, you don't need to add anything just for the sake of adding anything. The warbands add the new thing, and the new decks add the new thing. So, I think it'll be, a little bit fun to have like an additional tactical choice, but it'll have to be balanced. And I always worry that like, if you add a new thing, that's another thing to have to worry about for balance. And
sure.
We'll just have to see how it goes. But overall, I think the aesthetic is really great. I am excited about that. I was getting a little tired of the just like rocks and fire aesthetic.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's actually, so I guess, true to lore. I am just realizing now that the place where the rules for those tokens and waystone hexes is in the image. If you zoom in enough, they have like this card that explains both of the new things. So
okay. And is that where you think you get the must be an enemy territory to?
Yes. I've zoomed in as much as I can possibly zoom in again, and now I can just barely read this. And it does say that is like after the end phase, after scoring, basically. So like everything is done for the round. You check position of your fighters. If you're holding one of these in enemy territory, you heal and gain a glory.
Yeah, that's interesting. So any glory you get will not be able to be spent immediately on upgrades.
It'll be post end phase, and the fact that the heal is also tied to enemy territory means that it's like it's good for when you're wanting to charge out into your opponents, and really defending yours is probably not even super important, except for like just denial of a little bit of glory. So I think that's going to be pretty neat. Anything else from the warbands or the boards or anything else that you noticed that we haven't mentioned yet?
Well, no. I think we just have to mention the decks now, right?
Yep.
Okay.
That was where I was going to head next then.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So we do have 2 new decks in this box. And, well, before I say any sort of speculation. Let's just say what they are, and
Okay.
then we can talk about them. So we have one deck that is a strike deck. It is called Hunting Grounds.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is Deadly Synergy, and that is a mastery deck. So they give a little blurb for each one, essentially saying that Hunting Grounds is strike, but it favors warbands that want to stay in their own territory, manipulating your position of your warband, playing ploys and upgrades to spell disaster for anyone foolish enough to take the fight to you. So a very counterpunch deck, apparently.
Yeah, we have not seen something like that yet.
No.
Is the short of it. We kind of waiting for that deck that does not push you forward. We've had a few, like Rack and Ruin is territory agnostic.
Yep.
But it's kind of doing some other things. So one that encourages you to like stay in home. I think that is potentially a huge thing for the game, because I think there's any number of warbands that would be much happier. I mean, if we look back in previous editions, most warbands are generally much happier being able to counterpunch.
Yeah.
That's perhaps overly broad a statement, but if you can, I know some of the most successful runs in competitive play were often by warbands that were able to do that counterpunch thing. They were able to like score enough to force the enemy to come to them and then hit them back when they did. So
yeah, and to your point, I mean, it really is a strategy that just sort of doesn't exist in this version of the game, and I think that that's kind of bad in that there's not enough variety in what people are doing. Everyone kind of has to either be right in the middle or pushed into enemy territory. And so warbands that can't hang doing that, either because they don't have enough defense or they don't have enough health, they just kind of fall apart. And I guess even if you're just too slow, sometimes you just can't get to where you need to be. So I think, giving those warbands that don't have the stats to be pushing into enemy territory another option is probably a good thing. The hope, I guess, is that it doesn't end up also helping the warbands who are already on top. But, you can never really know until we get our hands on stuff. But
right.
Seems cool. Cards will obviously tell us more, but yeah, the other one, Deadly Synergy, this one is a little confusing to me. It is supposedly built to be for the larger warbands, so 5 to 7 fighters.
Yeah.
And it cares, apparently, about arranging your warband in specific formations and flanking your foes. So it also says that it'll allow you to swap weapon characteristics and wrong foot those who end up outnumbered. I don't know what that means.
No, I have no idea.
So is that like saying, oh, this fighter is suddenly going to have like the attack profile of one of your other fighters? Because that'd be wild.
Or of the enemy they're standing next to.
Yeah, maybe something like that. But either way, I don't necessarily even like the sound of that, because that's kind of terrifying. But it's interesting. I guess I kind of do like the idea of a deck that is built for 5 to 7 fighter warbands, except that we already have a couple of 7 fighter warbands that are, well, and one is a 9 fighter warband. They're pretty powerful right now, and I don't think they need a deck that's like tailor made for them. So
yeah, it's tough, right? Because you look at some of the warbands that we consider horde, and it's not that horde as a rule is too powerful, because Sepulchral Guard is, no one's worried about them being overly powerful. Hexbane, we're not worried about them being overly powerful. It's just a couple, even I think Grimwatch are powerful, but I'm not like hyper, I think it's just that the Gits have this problematic set of stats to go with their numbers.
Yeah, if you just took one dice off of everything for Gits, suddenly there wouldn't be a problem anymore. Right?
Yeah, that is definitely true. One
If
dice
they
off everything.
if they were down, well, and the crazy thing is that like that would mean that most of their fighters are like 2 hammers for 1 damage.
Yeah,
Like it's not horrible. It's
right.
just not great. But if you have
Yeah.
9 of them, like I don't know. I, I'm literally hanging out here in Hexbane's land with almost all of my fighters on 1 damage, and some of them not even with 2 hammers. They're on 3 swords. So it's like, uh, what? But anyway, so I mean, I really like the idea of this kind of a deck, but I'm a little worried about it in practice.
Hmm.
Um, the thing that I noticed that seemed perhaps obvious, but I'll see what you think. Are these decks tailor made to go with the warbands in the box?
I mean, hunting grounds clearly.
Yeah, that
Like
was sort of my thought too.
for sure. I know that it's tagged as mastery, which once again we're still sitting on the only one taken hold deck for the game.
Yeah, right.
But it's mastery being that weird thing that it does. It's not impossible that it is a mastery deck that is also asking you to stand on treasure or something like that.
Yeah.
So we'll see as far as that goes. But yeah, I know Skylar hypothesized that that's what was going on with the decks that we've seen. You know, like Raging Slayers coming out alongside Kamadora's Blades and that sort of thing. So yeah,
Right.
I mean it could be. And as far as releasing a product, you would want to have a deck that works okay with each of the warbands that would be grabbing them. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's not too much of a stretch to consider that. So,
And I suppose, I mean, being that it's a core box, maybe even more so in that scenario, because like they're packaged together. The idea would be you pick up the box, you're going to play with somebody to learn how to play the game. If the decks just don't gel at all with the warbands that are in the box, it'd be like, so what are we doing here?
right, exactly.
Yeah. So I think though that's everything in the box that we have sort of been teased so far. Any final thoughts on the Spitewood box before we move on to these 4 other boxes?
Man, I do not know. Let me say this. This is a fresh core box. We've seen some new rules that are coming in just based on feature tokens and that sort of thing. If I were to ask you one change, retraction, or addition to the rules, like some tweak that you would hope to see if they did something like that, is there one you would want to see come out with Spitewood? I guess they call it an expansion set here, for what it's worth. Yeah,
it is an expansion, so maybe the core rules didn't change at all. Maybe they just have that extra card to say, hey, here's the new things in this box.
Sure.
I think, largely, I really like how the game is right now. I think the rule set is clean. I think the things that are like the most controversial are the things that have already gotten changes in errata for token placement and underdog. And so it's like, well, seeing as how they just got errata, they're probably not going to be getting changed in the rules, I would guess, in like the actual book. But maybe, like, I don't know that we feel like we've settled that like this is how it's going to be forever. But maybe it is. And if it is, then at least we'd see that like printed now in the rule book. But I feel like the response, at least online, has not been spectacular for the new token placement, especially.
Right.
Underdog, I don't really care which way they decided to end up with it. Like, I think it worked fine previously. And the way it works now, it's kind of like, yeah, you lose a fighter, suddenly you're the underdog. I think that kind of makes sense because it's like you're down on action economy.
Sure. I think what I like about it now is that it doesn't change so frequently.
Yeah, that's true. And it
And
doesn't change like mid surge or something.
it's also harder to get wrong, right? Like, hey, you forgot to actually score that surge, so I should have been the underdog for, this last action,
Yeah,
right?
which would have meant then I score my surge, which
yeah,
yeah, that kind of stuff. For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think that is a really good point, that it is just a little cleaner for the bookkeeping. But otherwise, I think in the core rules, besides like things where there was just obvious printing errors, where it was like, these rules contradict, we just need a clarification. I'm pretty happy with where the core rules are at in the game. And like largely, and the outliers really are frustrating, because it's like largely, I feel like second edition is one of the more better balanced sets for Underworlds that we've ever had, where it's like, you can play almost anything and have a puncher's chance. It's just that there's a couple warbands that really stand out as being like too strong. And I know we've spent so much time and so much energy talking about, how our gets are a problem, but like they really are. And it's just unfortunate, because it's like, you either choose to say, well, I don't want to play them because I know they're overtuned. So you're putting yourself at a disadvantage from somebody who's just cares about winning, and then they're playing gets. Or you play them even if you don't want to, because you're like, statistically, they give me the best chance to win. And so it's like, it kind of feels bad. But I always hope that there's like new tools that could help against them. But like, I don't know if that's really ever going to happen, because they're so powerful that it's like, it would really be nice to be able to rein them in.
yeah.
Which, to their credit, they did rein in Gore Chosen, and they reined in Reckless Fury pretty much right away after Worlds. And it was like, they're not a problem anymore. Admittedly, I think they hit Reckless Fury maybe a little too hard, but like, that deck was wild. So
yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of getting a new expansion, I'm pretty excited. I think it should be interesting. The tactical depth that should be added by just having a new board, I think, should be really interesting, because right now, like, you have so few real choices with board selection. I think even just having that one extra board to have choices on should mean that like you can find something that fits your strategy a little bit better.
Right. Yeah. All right. We're talking about trying to find something that fits your strategy. There'll be 16 more warbands to pick from, any one of which might fit your strategy.
Anyone.
Should we bop through those?
Let's do it. There's a lot to get through, so we'll try and go quick. There's not a lot to cover here.
Yeah.
So the first one is the order box. We know the name for all of these boxes. So this one is called the Shadow Seekers. This is composed of Xandar's Truth Seekers, the Shadeborn, Starblood Stalkers, Elethane's Soul Raid. So I guess starting from the top. So Truth Seekers, they're marked as a flex warband, and we last saw them back in the Harrow Deep core box. And they were essentially an aggro warband back then, so I guess strike by today's terminology. But they had some interesting tricks that sort of let them do some cool stuff and gave your opponents some hard choices. What do you think about seeing them in this box, and what are you kind of hoping to see on their War Scroll?
I will say they were not on my radar as a warband I was definitely expecting to see in this. I was surprised, but I'm down. We in the past we've been kind of drowned in Stormcast warbands, and that's not really the case at this point. I will do an aside here. We don't actually know what rotation is going to look like. That GW stated
that's true.
plan was that anything that was going to be legal in competitive play was going to be available to buy. And currently that's not technically true. Like there's this whole slew of warbands that got digital releases, and they were everything that had been most recently released for the game. and that's why we're actually seeing some of these warbands we're going to cover right now actually are basically having a re-release of their second set of rules for second edition, because they existed but were not, they were just existed as rules because they were likely to have been a recent purchase, and I think that was a way of softening the blow and not being like, hey, this thing you bought 4 months ago, can't use it anymore. So
Yeah. Yep. Totally agree.
and so then I would imagine most of those warbands that have digital rules are just going to drop off. And then what I don't know is the previous 16 warbands that were in Grand Alliance boxes, will those continue to be for sale, or will it drop? Will these 16 replace those 16? Not sure.
That would be a bummer if the other 16 are just gone, because I've been enjoying playing Hexbanes. And
yeah. Well, I mean, I tell you, anytime they rotate a war, like even if it's a warband I'd only played once, or maybe not even at all, like I always have a little bit of I'm like, oh man, there was going to be a time where I really dove into those guys, or I never got to really check them out. But there's just so many warbands, it's hard to do.
It is hard,
which is all running fairly far afield from this crew. But I know that Mike Prime back at Underworlds Underground is this was his jam. He's off playing other games these days, but maybe we'll get him to dip a toe back in just to try these out. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. These guys, I really hope that they still have the idea of like, when this fighter dies, some benefit happens to the other ones.
Yeah.
I thought that was always really cool, where it was like, you've got these 3 big sort of beefy fighters and you get some sort of bonus when any one of them goes down.
I'd agree. I myself am a little more excited for the Shadeborn.
Oh man.
We last saw them in Nether Maze. They had some super cool teleporting stuff that they could do. Like, it felt like potential for big brain stuff, and then it kind of got trimmed way back once the Ulgu seasons were over and there were no longer extra cover hexes on the board. So this warband that really benefited from cover, and their faction deck had some like not great, they could generate some like cover tokens, but they fell off before the end of the round, so it couldn't be used for scoring. So there were ways they didn't quite click as well. I think they were still available to do some neat stuff, but I really like the idea. I actually have them partially painted up, so I'll have to pull them back out and try and finish them off. I'm pretty excited to play these guys too, so and see exactly how they do this sort of strike from the shadows playstyle without the prevalence of cover hexes.
Yeah, although with all these people playing Pillage and Plunder, we do get plenty of cover these days. So maybe it works out.
Yeah,
but talking about teleporting, there's another warband that does quite a bit of teleporting, and that was the Starblood Stalkers, who are also in this box. Near and dear to my heart, my favorite warband that they ever released, and probably will be a warband I go back to here. I've got them pretty much fully painted up. I've just a little bit on Autopodal. I haven't touched up the details, but these guys are labeled as Take and Hold, which I guess maybe we did we say that Strike was for Shadeborn?
No, I did not. So Strike is for Shadeborn. There you
for
go.
Folks who are interested, they are labeled as Strike, which isn't surprising, but so Starblood Stalkers Take and Hold. The only downside to that is that we don't really have Take and Hold decks, so a little sad there, but maybe some of the mastery stuff will work for them. They were released back in Dire Chasm. They kept seeing play pretty much right up until the end of first edition, because they had so many flexible warband tricks in their deck. Teleports, pushes, you name it, they had it. And despite having a bunch of small fighters, they have one big scary guy in their Clacktrock.
Would always present a tough choice for the enemy. Like, can I afford to ignore Clacktrock, or do I have to pour resources into knocking him out while the skinks go and score everything? Yeah.
So you sort of had this nice back and forth of like, I can be on tokens, but I can also be brawling with Clacktrock. And the little skinks hit harder than you'd expect. So I'm hoping they do a lot of the same stuff. I really hope they keep their teleport. It felt very like Seraphon appropriate that like their spaceship or whatever was like picking them up and dropping them off wherever they needed to go.
Yeah.
Last one in this box then. Yeah, you want to run these elves down for us?
Yeah, for sure. This is Elathane's Soul Raid, which Skylar's got to be happy to see.
Oh yeah.
In a sense, they couldn't have been anything other than mastery unless they really kind of changed how these guys run.
Yeah. Right.
We saw them in Dire Chasm. They're the final warband to come out for Dire Chasm.
Yes.
Or in the final pair. And they're, they've got the crab, they've got the fish, and they got 3 elves. It'd be really interesting to see what they do. That Spinefin was if you could leverage Spinefin well, you could pilot these guys to great heights.
Absolutely.
Interesting to see how they implement that in the second edition rules. So that's exciting. So yeah, Skylar's got to be pumped. He's got 2 sets of elves in this order box, and then if you count the Kurnothi, then 3 sets of elves are on their way. So
yeah, and he's already got a bunch of them. So I mean, he's swimming in elves. He can do whatever he wants. Yeah, I mean, Soul Raid had so many neat mechanics too. I really would love to see their Tide Inspire kind of stay, and I think it'd be pretty easy on a War Scroll to just write out. But yeah, that's the order box. Not exactly what I would have expected for the warband choices, but I'm not upset about any of these. I think they're all pretty interesting warbands.
Right.
And yeah, we just the only thing that I think would have been more apt is to see Fire Slayers in here.
I was going to ask you what were you most surprised not to see, and for me it was Fire Slayers because they are all over a number of the images in the cards. I would have bet a fair amount of money that we were going to see them.
Yeah, and it's just I think a little sad because now we've got 6 elf warbands or something, and just the 1 order dwarf warband. And like, not that I really cared about Fire Slayers all that much, but I know a lot of people really love them. And to just not have the faction represented in the game at all is a little sad. So I think that's the only one for me that really stands out as like, hey, why not? Because a lot of the other order choices that you could have had in here would have been like old Stormcast, or you could have like some of the spellcasters, which I think they still haven't quite figured out how they want to do spellcasting warbands in this edition. So nothing too terribly surprising there. Shall we move to Chaos?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
I can tell you, Emmett was excited for Starblood Stalkers. He was really excited to see Skittershanks as well. He played a lot of them. Yeah. So shocking. They are Strike. They're in Nether Maze. And they're all about killing the enemy leader. And that's just got to be an easy theme for them to lean into again here. So
yeah. I would imagine their War Scroll will just have something along the lines of like, if you attack the leader or kill the leader, then something sort of Inspire happens. I don't know if it'll be exactly the same as it used to be, but either way. And then probably some abilities similar to like, you can push an enemy leader closer to your fighters, or you can, get closer to the enemy leader, or get some bonus for attacking enemy leader. So
yeah.
Very cool, very thematic models. I mean, like some of those poses are probably the most dynamic they've ever made.
For sure.
So pretty neat to see them coming back. Not quite as dynamic, but some very interesting fighters. We are also seeing a return of the Gnarl Spirit pack.
Yeah.
These guys are labeled as Flex this time around, which is pretty interesting because of how aggressive they were in the Gnarlwood. To be fair, though, they were released in a way that was not in any way balanced. So maybe this is like coming back to what they really wanted them to be all along. But I love the like aesthetic of the Chaos Undivided fighters who are not part of like the main legions of Chaos, where they're more the barbarian aesthetic. So seeing these guys come back, I am pretty hyped to see these models, if nothing else. I'm a
Yeah.
little worried about how they might translate their spirit mechanic into second edition, but I think they'll probably have a better way of handling it than they did in first edition.
Yeah, I mean, I think a likely comparison was I remember aligning them with the Crimson Court, which had this inspired status, this bloodthirsty status, and this uninspired status. And these guys had inspired, beast form, and uninspired. And so I think they struggled a bit to find their footing with the Crimson Court in this edition. So maybe they've learned some things for Gnarl Spirit.
Gotta hope. The errata seems fine now for Crimson Court. I haven't actually played with them, but seems interesting at least. So hopefully they can find that balance as well.
Sure. Well, Thricefold Discord is the next one listed. And these fellas are the first one that we've listed that is a reprint that like existed in the digital set.
Yep.
And is coming out again. So very curious to see if this is just like tweaks or a total revamp. They're being listed as mastery, which sure. And they kind of have this control aggro thing going on right now. So I wonder how much of that is true. I mean, that could be, I guess, sort of seen as mastery. I don't know. If I was to throw out one thing that I hope, man, I really love Vile Temptations. Like that's such a unique
I know,
thing.
right? Don't touch Vile Temptations.
I mean, I loved. It wasn't even a thing that I would go through whole games and not use it in when I've used them in second edition and even in first edition where you had the gifts, the false gifts.
Yep.
Same thing where I'd sometimes go entire games and not actually give the opponent one of those. But I loved all the lines of play that it opened up, like just such interesting ways to use it. And, busting out in an unexpected time or in an unexpected way was always so much fun. Well, for one of us at least, I guess. But,
yeah. Well, and it's like one of the only like true control mechanics that I feel like they've put in the game to this point. And
yeah, sure.
I don't really like Slanesh all that much, so they like the models just don't do anything for me. But the idea of having this option to be like, hey, I can actually like take this card that no one else would probably really consider using and have it with the intent that I'm going to put it on an opposing fighter and have it be a negative. Like, I think that's actually pretty cool. And for people who like them a lot, I think it's a really neat thematic ability to have. And I really would be sad to see it go. I think whatever the cuts thing, like the free ping.
Oh,
if they want to take
silly.
that one away, that I'd be okay with. Then, change that one, make that go away. Maybe make the dodge thing work a little bit better. Because like now, I feel like it just either it doesn't do much of anything, or somebody rolls hot, and it's just like this is so frustrating to try and deal with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of all over the place. So
sure.
Lastly, we kind of end up going in a very different direction from Thricefold. We get Wormspat. They're also labeled as Mastery, though, and they, I believe, released in Beastgrave.
That is correct.
Okay. My brain did not fail me. So we get our elite, I won't say aggro, but our elite warband for Nurgle. And I mean, for people who like Nurgle, these guys were always really cool models. Lots of flavor, lots of just like little touches that were like, oh, that's so Nurgle. With a hugely unfortunate warband deck, I think that just like did not quite work. They had this idea that like this is going to be an elite hold warband with only 3 fighters, and it was like, nope.
Right. They had supremacy. They had a whole 3 objectives at the time, 3 treasure now in there. And you're like, 3 people? What are you talking about?
Yeah. If you lose anybody, you're sunk. Like, this is impossible.
And there was a guy, actually, I think John Wynn Reese, I remember him being like, people just need to play better. This is totally doable. I'm like, I don't know.
Sure,
it's
sure.
okay.
The old get good argument. we've seen some really neat, not necessarily like in-depth mechanics, but like just a really very Nurgle mechanic for the gardeners with their
Mm-hmm.
cycle. And so I kind of hope that whatever they're doing with Wormspat sort of is able to have that same, like, this feels very Nurgle, like just
Sure.
hard to shift, sort of inevitable, kind of grindy
Yeah, I'm curious how
aspect.
they'll distinguish them from the gardeners. Yeah, this is a warband that, and you didn't see much of it. They actually had a cycle mechanic that
Yeah.
certain of their ploys were labeled as cycles, and then one or two objectives that would score off of having played cycles. Most of the cycles were not very good, and so
Yeah.
I mean, like most of their deck, there are a few like nifty ones in there, um, but that cycle is already, I think, quite well represented with the gardeners. So, how do you represent this kind of durability, this plotting inevitable thing? But cycles are already spoken for. So I'm excited to see them. I spent some time with them, really enjoyed them a lot. I know their big deal at the time was that they would inspire to well, except for the boss, but they'd inspired to 2 block, and they had a damage reduction mechanic. So if you found ways to like leverage keeping them alive for a very long time, they could really sing. So I wonder if
Yeah.
they'll continue that.
I would like that. I think that would make a lot of sense. Like maybe keep them kind of average for on the offense, but give them like really solid defensive stats and just try and
Mm-hmm.
make it like they are super hard to shift. Not
Mm-hmm.
not like the gardeners where you literally aren't allowed to kill them in one hit, but like
Yeah.
maybe give them 5 or 6 health apiece and just make it so it's like it takes forever to chew through all of this.
Yeah.
But that's chaos. I think I'm pretty happy with all of those being in there.
Yeah.
Just
I
not.
Is there anything that you thought was going to be included but wasn't?
No, I don't think so. Like, because I was trying to think, like, what other chaos do we have that hasn't been put back in the game right now? Like, Eyes of the Nine, but I would have been surprised to see them, although I wouldn't be upset. I like Eyes of the Nine's models. I
Sure.
think they're cool, but we have uh, um, we have Zinch already, so it's like they're kind of covered. And
Yeah.
then we just got sort of the spiritual replacement for Garrick's Reavers. So
Right.
like to see them again would have been shocking.
Yeah. And as much as, so the Godsworn Hunt are pictured in quite a few of the images, or enough of them to stand out to me. And so I was assuming that we would see them at some, and I was like, it's weird that we're going to see Gnarl Spirit Pack and Godsworn Hunt. Well, we're not. So there you go.
Turns out.
It wouldn't have made any sense anyway, but having a 6-fighter pseudo horde might have been an interesting archetype to explore with chaos.
Yeah.
But no complaints. I think these are 4 solid choices.
Yeah, I think there's people who are attached to all of these warbands, so like it's pretty cool to get them back.
Sure.
I've noticed that really outside of a couple of warbands, we really aren't reaching back to season 1 at all anymore, and season 2 just very lightly. So I almost wonder if they've just decided that like if it hasn't already been in a recent box, we're just not going to go back to it.
I
seasons
bet
1 and 2.
Some of it is also like, I mean, this is not to dog on any of the early season models, which I like quite a bit. I have favorites all through the different seasons, but I wonder if they think their miniature work has been better in the later seasons and wanted to showcase those more.
Very well could be. I do think there's also some like aesthetic changes that have happened over the years, and like
Sure.
to re-release Steelhearts would be weird because like they don't match the other Stormcast anymore. So
right.
All right. Well, on to Death, who admittedly I feel like they have kind of been getting the cold shoulder this edition so far. Yeah. And to start things off, we're getting another one of these warbands from the digital release that's getting another physical release. So Thorns of the Briar Queen still taking hold, which I think is good. We don't really need them to change too much. I think their current digital rules are actually one of the better digital war scrolls.
Yeah.
I think they are pretty well balanced, and I think they work pretty much how you'd hope they would. So maybe just light touch here.
Yeah. I mean, we saw them do well at the Canadian Tabletop Championship. Is that what our boys went to?
Yes. I believe that is what it's called, CTC.
And they have some really cool rules on card. So yeah, I agree. I think they could go through this with minimal changes and still be a pretty interesting one. They feel like a horde warband that's in a healthy spot as opposed to some of the other ones. So
yeah, they got like appropriate stats for the little ghosties, some scary power from the leader, but not like overwhelming, and a lot of cool war scroll abilities. So
yeah,
pretty happy.
Well, we were
with
talking
them.
about maybe bringing warbands back because they had gorgeous models. I think
man.
Sons of Velmorn fits the bill here.
Yes.
They look so great. I remember you and I trying our first game with the Gnarlwood box.
Yeah.
And I think you were the Godsworn Hunt, and I was Sons of Elmore, and I was like, "What's happening? This is so rough."
Yeah.
And it was, there were some people who would grind it out and find ways to quote unquote make them work, but it's such an uphill battle. And so I really hope that they find some success here. I'm not asking. Not hoping that they have like a busted war scroll, but just a real solid one, because I'd love to see these guys. It's an interesting spot for a death warband to exist at, the 5 fighter spot,
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Excited for that.
Yeah, they are listed as flex, so we can expect to see a little punchy, a little hold, which works with sort of what they were always supposed to do, but I feel like it never quite worked out. And like, for folks who like the skeleton aesthetic, they are about as perfect of a like raised skeleton warrior model, I think, as that you could ever possibly expect to get. Like, I really don't know how you would make improvements on those models. So some really cool stuff. I'd be really interested to see if they try and keep the idea of the leader being able to always provide flanked. I think that'd be really cool. I think they could probably pull it off. But we'll see. I'm sure we'll see a lot of them, even if they're not great, because people love those models.
Yeah.
The next one, a little less excited about these models, and even less excited about the prospect of if they don't get this war scroll right, is the Exiled Dead. Our local Wellner will be ecstatic to have these guys back. He played them almost exclusively in first edition, and honestly, I didn't even think that after they got some erratas that they were all that good, and he sort of showed us wrong. Or at the very least, he figured out ways to make them work that I would never have probably done. They are listed as a mastery warband, but the way that they worked in first edition, where you could just kind of like move all the zombies all at once, had some problems, to say the least. And knowing now that beasts, which is how they sort of described zombies to be able to sort of keep them in balance with the rules, if now that some of those restrictions have been lifted from beasts, if all these zombies are still like just allowed to hold and you can move all of them at once and their speed like 2 to 4 based on their abilities and stuff, like, that could be a problem. They always were like greater than the sum of their parts. So it was like you put them all together and all of a sudden they're doing these crazy attacks where it's like, oh, you're surrounded, so therefore I've got 3 dice and I do 3 damage and I've got fully surrounded. And I was like, crap, I'm dead.
Well, and there's no scything anymore, so you can't punish them for having grouped up, right? So I think the challenge with these guys is that like many of the horde war bands that have some way of like generating extra efficiency so that you don't just have half your warband standing around watching the other half do some things and die or
Right.
whatever. They have to have this tweak to the rules. And Exile Dead had, perhaps the biggest, lateral step from what the core rules were, with this, like, hey, I'm going to walk with 5 guys right now.
Yeah. Right.
Or I'm going to attack with 5, whatever the case may be. And anytime you do that, wow, there's such a risk of accidentally like tipping the balance too far, in one way.
Absolutely.
I remember it feeling like whenever I'd play against them, you'd be like, I feel like I'm playing a Underworlds, not maybe 1.5, maybe 0.75, like that is like, I don't know, like phase shifted from the
Yeah.
like it's not quite the same game. It felt like it had changed, and it wasn't necessarily bad, but really needed a different way of thinking about things. And I think that means that hopefully they've been designed with a great deal of care, because
Absolutely.
that can go wild if they haven't.
Yep. Yet another horde warband that has the potential to be a problem. So one to keep our eyes on.
So then there's Skinnerkin, which we last saw them released with digital rules in Emberguard. They were part of the very final release, right, from Wintermaw.
Yep, they were
one of the last 2 war bands from first edition. You put a lot of reps in with them, did some cool things with them. They had a super unfortunate war scroll for second edition. So I would say I'd like to see that they've improved. It'd be hard for them to not improve.
Yeah.
It just felt like, I don't know, like just some of the stuff, like the way they generated haunches in this. I don't know. It didn't seem particularly well thought out. It felt like they got kind of blitzed through a little bit. So,
well, I almost think that the initial release that they had was as intended, and it was just horribly busted because they were like, oh, if you have a haunch token, you can spend it, and then you can treat your dice rolls on defense as though you had rolled more crits than your opponent. So you always get to stand fast. And I was like, wait, so I can never be driven back and I always get to reduce damage by 1? Like, wait a minute. That's not fair at all. And it wasn't. Like, it was completely busted, and people were like immediately out of the gate, like, this has to change. This can't possibly be what they meant.
Yeah.
And so they changed that to once a round. So it's like, oh, so I get to use 1 haunch once per round, and I've got like 10 different ways of generating haunches. Like, wait, what? So yeah, the War Scroll was designed in a way that made no sense. It was like, oh yeah, I can generate like 12 haunches. And it's like, you can only spend 3. Like, there's literally only room to spend 3 in the entire game. So like, it didn't make sense. Like, so much of their War Scroll and their cards was like built around this idea that I'm going to get to generate haunches. And it's like, but they don't do anything. So the War Scroll basically did nothing. So like you say, it can't possibly not get better. Like, they will have some new abilities and they have to be better than they are now. It'll just be interesting to see, like, how close are they to their first edition version? Are they something completely different? They've got some cool models, but hard to know exactly where they're going to end up.
Yeah.
They are supposedly strike, and they are well known for their desire to chop everybody up and get meat for the king.
Yeah.
So, all right, on to destruction. Last box here, home stretch. We start things off with the unfortunate troll who sort of constantly causes problems in this game. We get Molog's Mob. Very cool warband. They're marked as mastery this time. This is also a redo of a digital war scroll. Man, I don't know what they're going to do. I kind of like some of the abilities on Molog's war scroll, but the squig stuff is just kind of ridiculous right now.
Well, so here's the thing. I love that the squigs are relevant, right? Like,
absolutely,
it matters. The squigs matter. They just need better internal balance on the built-in abilities, right? Like,
right.
98% 8% of the time they're using the "Hey, you're surrounded" ability, and that means that player is not having to make many choices. It would be great if there was better balance for like, hey, what actually is the best option here? Every once in a while you'll see something, and usually it's because somebody's put brawler on and it says I can't be flanked or surrounded. But if there was better internal balance there, but like we talked about with the Exiled Dead, the other twist, and we saw this with first edition Moloch, who had many errata, because they're like, well, how do we, if your warband is all about one fighter, how do we make that one fighter not just kind of one and done? And so he kept on getting these rules changes and rules tweaks, and it's the same thing. We've got one really big, powerful fighter. How do you make sure that doesn't skew too hard? It's harder than balancing a 3, 4, 5 fighter warband. Although this is technically a 4 fighter warband, it's really all about the one.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge.
Yeah. I think I wouldn't be. I mean, yeah. To your point, like, keep the internal balance better for the squigs, but like that could even be as simple as just saying like the squigs only provide the bonus to Mollog. Like right now, the way it's worded, they get to provide the bonus to themselves, which means that all of the squigs are really super accurate, which is frustrating.
Yeah. Bewildering.
Yeah. It's like, why does Bat Squig have 3 swords with surrounded all the time? Like,
why is Bat Squig's uninspired attack the most accurate in the game?
Yeah. Right. So it's like, even just maybe that alone, like you could keep everything else and just change that, and it'd probably be fine. Sure. So either way, I'm always interested to see what they do with Mollog. I think he's a good thing to have in the game. It's just like, it's always so hard to get that balance right.
Yeah. Well, talking about getting the balance right, we've got Zarbag's Gits here. I think we've expended enough syllables on our thoughts on these fellas. Any number of things that need to get checked on them. They've got great mobility options. Their attack and defense profiles are surprisingly good, especially once inspired. And honestly, their health pool is the biggest in the game. They got 9 fighters, and 3 of those fighters have 3 health, which means they're at 21 health, which is nuts. My first thought was like, what if you just dropped them all to 2 health? I'm like, well, then they'd be the perfect edge of the knife deck.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
But at least you'd see him using edge of the knife instead of Cata Pillage or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't. When we think about what the production timeline is, I don't know if any of these recent changes and gameplay experience would have been seen in time to I just don't know, what the printing schedule is.
These were probably done about 6 months ago. So
yeah.
Unfortunately, 6 months ago, the game was just coming out. So
yeah,
these are probably not actually all that well, tuned to the current state of the meta, I guess is what I will say.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yep.
But I think to your point, we probably don't need to say too much more about these. The only thing we can hope is that somehow they don't get better. But we have another one that's coming back that we haven't seen in a while, and this is Hrothgorn.
There's a name I've not heard in a long time.
Yeah, right. Nobody's played Hrothgorn in a while, I don't think, because Hrothgorn kind of lost some of his edge, for good reason. Things got a little out of balance with large fighters for a while, and some of the tweaks to bring them back in line meant that Hrothgorn wasn't as usable. But this time around, they're saying he's going to be a flex warband. He's originally released in Beastgrave. Lots of really cool thematic elements for this warband. I always felt like this was sort of like the redo of Mollog, where it was like, we still want to have this one big fighter, but we want it to feel like you kind of need to work in concert with the rest of the warband.
Yeah.
So he's got the little grot helpers, and he's got his cat that comes to help him out in the hunt. I think there's a lot of really neat stuff they could be doing this edition with the trap token.
Oh yeah, that's got to be on the war scroll, right? How could it
Yeah,
not?
yeah. And I hope it's not a once per game. I hope that it is something that's baked in to say, like, if you don't have the token placed, you can place it doing something. I don't know what,
Yeah.
but like, please just have it be there, and don't have it be like an afterthought ability. If it's like, oh, you have to place it at the beginning of the game and then you never get to place it again, it'd be like, oh, okay. So this is like a once per game lethal hex. That'd be kind of lame, but should be interesting. I would expect that we'll see something weird with his like chain crossbow thing. So maybe like ranged grapple, which would be wild. But yeah, a warband I always really loved. His faction cards were ridiculous. So
Yeah.
like, thankfully those are gone.
Surge for having played your third power card of any kind.
I don't know if I've really ever seen you get more upset about a surge being scored in a game than when I would score that card with Hrothgorn and just be
man,
like,
I was so salty about that.
I played a power card for the third time this round. Any power card, so I guess I get a glory, right?
I'd be like, congratulations, you played Underworlds. Great. Get glory.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so wildly out of, like, just doesn't make a lot of sense. He was one of those factions that had like inbuilt annihilation. So it was like this wildly unbalanced deck where it was like easiest surge in the game, hardest end phase in the game, like all in one deck. It was just like, what is going on with this warband? But yeah, should be fun. I love the models, so cool one to see back. Got one more. You want to run these?
Yeah, so happy to see these guys. Ripless Snarlfangs. We saw them in Beastgrave. They came out alongside the Grimwatch, and they are Goblin Wolf Riders. And it took many years, but there was finally a whole AOS Gits release that came out alongside them. Yeah. And Phil, in your note here, it says, as long as they don't have their wolf bites back, I'll be happy. I don't know how they couldn't. Like, well, what's their signature thing that if not the wolf bites?
Let's not have it be back exactly as it was.
Sure.
If they want to have like a 1 or 2 sword wolf bite or something, or have maybe an ability that's more like the Jaws, where it's like you can use this ability once or something, and then you get to roll for extra damage as a ping.
Sure.
I'd be cool with that. But on every attack, just being like, yeah, let me throw out some dice and see how lucky I am.
Nice.
And for 2 damage, like, what in the world? Like, no, one damage is plenty on an extra free attack, please.
Yeah. This is another one that I'm very curious to see how they make the transition, because it is 3 goblins on wolves. I think the wolves, maybe they just have like a more powerful attack, and that is the wolf bite, and then the goblins are like kind of the extra, like, and then also the goblin does a poke from the back or something. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
So make the goblin be the extra instead of the wolf or something. But
yeah, or maybe like you just have a sort of a powerful attack where it's like 2 hammers, 2 damage. That's just your baseline. And then you have like a utility thing. So you've got your bow shot, or you've got the spear that maybe it's got like grapple, so you can like push people around.
Sure.
Just ways to have like a choice where it's like, I have this second attack profile. There would be times where I would want to use this, but it's not what I'm always going to want to do. And so then you can pick and choose.
Yeah.
I'd be pretty happy with that.
Many games played with these guys I remember very much enjoying, their stats, their power cards, their interactions, like the different options you had for play with them. So super interested to see how they go. There's lots of stuff I'm excited for. This might be the one I'm most excited to see out of all these.
Yeah. Very, very cool. I think they ought to provide something different for destruction right now. So
yeah, that's a good point. But that's it. That's 16 plus 2 plus a box.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff to think about. And for us to start planning for when the actual release comes, whenever that comes. Oh man.
I remember when this happened before, we did kind of like a quick hit. Here's like 90 seconds on each one or something like that. We may end up doing a similar thing, and then as time permits, like returning to different things. And then, again, we we don't have any indication, but of when exactly this is happening. But
No. If it lines up with the same timing as the Emberguard box, we might be down both Brian and Skylar for this too. So,
oh no.
Something for us to have to worry about. Nothing for you folks to have to think about.
Yeah.
I will say one more thing from the article that was just tagged on right at the end. For folks like us who've been invested in this game, have kind of bought all the warbands to this point. If you don't want to buy all these warbands again, they will have a card release only. But if you were playing for Emberguard, that card release was not easy to get. So if you're interested in it, probably keep your eyes out for when that goes up on pre-order and get on it, because you may not be able to grab one for months if it is the same supply as the initial release of Emberguard.
Yeah, last time they released while we were at Worlds doing coverage, and I was like so busy. I was like, I'll just take care of it at the end of the day, and by the end of the day, it was no longer available. Yeah.
Very unfortunate, but hopefully they've learned their lesson.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before we wrap things up today?
No, I was going to follow it up with a what warband are you most excited to have seen return, but I think we already know for you.
Well, I would be lying if I didn't say it was Starblood Stalkers, but I do think that Hrothgorn could be really interesting depending on how they do them, so I'll probably be exploring him a little bit. I don't yet. So for folks who don't know, we do our local tournaments, Madtown Throwdowns, and Skylar makes activation tokens for each Grand Alliance to say who was the best performing in each Grand Alliance, so that even if you don't win the tournament, you still have something to say like, hey, you know what? I did, pretty well because I was the best Destruction player or whatever. Destruction are the only ones of those tokens I don't have yet. So I've got to find a Destruction warband for the next time we do one, and really dedicate some time there so I can round out my set.
I apparently play a lot of Chaos because I've had to. I'm like, I'm gonna have to swap some of these Chaos ones for other ones so I can diversify my collection.
Do a little trading here.
Yeah.
Did you already say that you're most excited for Rippas? And then,
I think so. Yeah. I think
and then I guess
there.
we'll just have to see what they do to your slashy boys.
Yeah, it might have been Thricefold if I hadn't already gotten to play them in this. Yep. It's because if you look at the I think we've talked about this before on the podcast, but if you look at the digital only like legacy release for Wolves, they currently do have like 2 attack profiles on their card.
That make no sense.
You're like, well, wait, one of these is just strictly better than the other. Under what circumstances would I ever use this other one? Like,
you wouldn't.
So that'd be the other interesting thing is look at some of these ones that were just digital only and just be like, was there any spark of what they eventually became?
Or did they just completely flush the war scroll and start over?
Yeah. But no, it'll be an exciting time. It'll be a fun time. We joke about it being a lot of work for us as content creators, but I do really enjoy having this opportunity to be like, man, there's so much new stuff. Like every game I play, I'm going to be playing against something that's like, oh, cool. What does that do? Like, oh, I never saw that interaction before. Oh, I never thought like your opponent does something neat. You're like, oh man, that's awesome. Like, never thought about that. So all kinds of positives from it.
Yeah. Really shake up the meta, get a whole bunch of new stuff out in the wild and just like see where people can take it, because with all of that new just possibility, you really don't know anymore what the best thing to do is. You can guess that it's probably some of the same things that were good before, but it's always a fun time. So probably close to the end of the year, we'll be getting to really flesh out a whole bunch of new strategies and try a whole bunch of new stuff. Well, if folks out there, if you've got thoughts on new things you want to try, or just want to be able to talk all these brand new releases with us when they finally come out, you can head on over to our Discord. We are always out there, and we are chatting up with the local groups, folks joining us from all over the world as well, sharing their perspectives, different takes on strategies, all sorts of different stuff. Or you could reach out to us at our whatthehexcast@gmail.com email. If you want to learn anything else about the Age of Sigmar lore or any of our other podcasts, head on over to themortalrealms.com. They've got all of our content hosted there, and a bunch of the content from all the other shows in our podcast group. Coming up next, yet to be determined, something with me, Brian, and Skylar. We will be figuring something out. We are kind of hoping that we can talk a little bit more about that Tacoma Open tournament, try and figure out what was going on there with Realmstone Raiders. But we will see. We've got a little while to figure that one out, so stay tuned.
Hey, Phil.
Yeah.
You know what we always do.
Yeah, we always have to do some sort of a flavor text quiz.
We do. And unfortunately, because we're not reviewing a deck, because we're not doing like a battle report.
Yeah, I mean,
it is wide open here. So what I am going to give you some hints right out of the gate here. I'm going to tell you that it is, I'm going to tell you what deck it is in. So,
wow. Okay. So you're really narrowing it down.
It is in Pillage and Plunder.
Oh, well, I've played that deck a lot lately.
Yeah. So this should be really easy. This is unattributed.
Yeah.
Some fighters just want it all.
Ooh. Okay. I think I might know what it is. I would never be able to remember the name. I believe it is an upgrade. Is that correct?
It is an upgrade.
Okay.
It's an upgrade that you probably don't take all that often.
Yeah. Which is why I am currently pulling up the names of the cards, just because I don't think I would be able to remember it otherwise. Is it Frenzy of Greed?
It is Frenzy of Greed.
Okay.
Because the Frenzy of Greed we're going to have when we get all this.
I literally never would have been able to remember the name of that card, but I could have told you that the monkey from... like I can remember, like the art is cool because it's like, oh, they have all the little treasure things and it's like all piled up, and the monkey from Black Powders is hanging out. And then I was like, this card's terrible. Like it's literally one of the only cards in any deck that like actively counters the strategy of the deck.
Yeah. Until we got Raging Slayers. But
it went almost a full year.
Yeah. Yeah. So your recommend listening for this episode is to welcome back all these warbands that we've seen. Returning is Coming Home Soon, and it's by the band High June.
Very cool. For What the Hex, I've been Phil.
And I've been Davey. I was going to do something related to Spitewood. There's this guy, Omar Apollo, that has a song just straight up called Spite. But I'm like, I might need to holster that one for when Spitewood actually drops. So.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. We're probably going to have a lot of those. There's probably going to be cards that like reference Spitewood. And
yeah. It can't be worse than the title I used for the last episode. I was like so tired putting that together. I'm like, fine, done. It's kind of riffing on my inability to remember. I think I finally remembered Raging Slayers. Like, just in, I was talking with them about it, and like I had to pause. Like, I think I got the deck right on the first try. Like, oh wow,
you got it in there now.